Hi guys. Well, would you believe that I've had these in my stock since Dunder sent over my lovely Talyllyn care package of kits a few months back? Well, you would because you knew they were here. Oh well. The Talyllyn has had 3 of these on the rails in the last year. Number 70, which is one of their own, 202, which was borrowed from the corris, and now they seem to have one from Statfold, so I'm a kit short. Anyway. The kits are from Narrowplanet, or like railway stores now, and comprise of their usual multimedia approach of 3D print, plastic and etched nickel. The kit seems well thought out though, with a selected material carefully chosen to benefit each piece. Not that we should expect anything less from these guys, of course. It'll be a straightforward build, I hope, and aside from the buffer beams, they'll follow their instructions to the T. Done. Read them. On to the build. I'm going to start with the bogies, and even these have been adjusted for the kit. One issue is the flashing, which is due to the forming of the plastic parts in moulds. It's not an issue and is completely normal, but it can be cut away or scraped away with a knife. Towards me, because I don't follow rules. The bogie is quite tight between the frames, even without what I'll do to it later, so it's recommended to cut the corners at an angle to help the throw. The first of the additional Narrowplanet details comes in the form of etched nickel brakes. These are a simple glue and fold job. Well, you could solder all these parts, but honestly I don't think it's worth a hassle. Glue works just fine. This piece is glued onto the top of the bogie, with the gap aligned with a hole in the middle. I thought I better check that the wheels run freely at this point, even though the bogies were a single piece, so I shouldn't be able to screw it up. Still, good to check. The second piece for the bogies are the steps. Each van only needs one, well 2. Obviously below the door. Again, really simple to make up, just filing around the edges where I'd removed it from the sheet. It just needs to be bent back into shape, in kind of a zigzag pattern. You can buy sheet folding tools for this sort of job, and I would like one very much, but I don't have one. What I do have is a dodgy old pair of pliers. Probably not much worse. And like the brakes, this is glued on behind it. Whilst the interior is a 3D print, it does still require some of the finer pieces attached, namely the edge of the seats and the handbrake, which actually really made me so mad, because it just wouldn't sit level. You could have heated an average sized family home with the heat coming off my head whilst I was trying to do this. I did get it level in the end, just didn't film that bit. The main body of the van is an odd one. It's essentially split into 2 parts. It's quite fancy actually, it's got like the main part and a little lobby. Or holding pen for dirty trackside workers. Nah, they probably get to sit down. This sheet is actually really easy to fold up as it's got well cut slits in the corners, so the kit just folds there happily. Although the fun will stop when it comes to fitting them to the base. The sides have little tags that fit into little slits in the floor, but these will most certainly need to be opened up. After a bit of force, you'll have it sitting flush. The little lobby area is a separate piece, but again, pretty much all the details already cut onto it. So it just needs folding and attaching to the main body. Like the floor, it's attached through little tags. The roof is actually fairly complex. It consists of 2 parts, and one, this one, has a series of folds to make. Half of them will act like holding tags which fit between the body sides, whilst the others pop out as little vents on the main roof piece. Like the brake pieces, I'm adding a drop of glue to these folds. The main roof piece has a lot of lovely little slits on the underside, which means when you roll something over it, such as a hobby knife, it starts to bend at the slits, which is a very clever design and I like it very much. When you're happy with the bend, you can use something like a knife to put down the vent tags, because these will then make way for the skeletal piece that's just made up. It's quite tricky to get them into the holes on either side, but believe in yourself and you'll do it. Or swear like I did, either way will work. This funky little grill piece isn't a grill at all. It's actually a series of grab handles. Again, a really clever design, and a pleasure to make up. Unlike when I make my own from wire, which is the opposite of pleasant to get right. These need to be cut free from the sheet and then carefully bent at the ends. One tip here for attaching them to the van is to use a slice of card between the handles and the van body. This will ensure a nice even job all around. I like to add the handles, get them into position, and then add a drop of glue on the inside. It's a clean job. I now need to scratch build the buffer beams. And like the van I made a few weeks back, these will sit out on little extenders from the van itself. I came up with a technique to get them pretty much all equal, which was to cut them against the 45-degree line on my cutting mat. It also helps to add a little dot so you know that they're all the same thickness. The buffer beam itself is just made from styrene strip, and with that, the extenders can get glued on. It's a fiddly job, but hopefully worth it for the look of the prototype. That's a finished one just there. They then get glued onto the van with super glue. A few times actually, if you keep knocking them off. The buffers are also from Dundas Models. I literally beg you at this point to spend some time looking around their website. It's a treasure trove of Dublinine goodness. The vans are then both primed in grey before they go their separate ways, as their finishes will differ. The Corris van is up first, and needs to be grey. But not car primer grey, another, extremely similar grey, just because. This is the other grey, and it's airbrushed on. And unlike the Corris van, the TR version needs to be a really bright green. Again, airbrushed, for smoothness. This one needed 3 coats to get a really nice block colour. I decided to do the interiors first and get them out of the way, because I hate doing them. The cream I use isn't that bad for covering, so you only really need 2 coats. Not that it matters, because you won't see inside. And at this point you'll be grateful that you haven't already glued your roof on, as it makes this job a lot easier. I didn't waste much time on this piece, and to be honest, I wasn't even sure what it looks like on the prototype, as I've never been inside them. So I went with a grey floor, brown wooden seats and black cushions. This seemed like it would look convincing. The roof is actually car primer, which will match all the other stock I've made with roofs. It'll be weathered, mind. And on to the hand details. I'm showing you how lovely it is painting raised details around the window, but this is actually the only one. If you look closely, the other windows are flat, which are far from nice to get looking good. I did a lot of wiping and repainting on those silly billies. Meanwhile, probably the easiest piece to paint are the grab handles, which are yellow for some reason. The paintbrush only really needs to glide down them once and they're done. And whilst my yellow's out, and mixed because it's 2 different yellows, I'll do the steps, because they're yellow as well. Yellow looks gross against the green, but I quite like it in the Corris grey. That's my opinion, not the Tallyllyn's, not the BBC's, not anyone else's. And then, something beautiful arrived in the post. Endon Valley Custom Decals heard my slightly raspy cries in the night, and sent over sets of decals for both vans, in record time as well, I'll add. I ordered them whilst I was on holiday and they nearly beat me home. It apparently helps to give the model a gloss varnish before adding decals, but I forgot. What I am using is Decal Fix, which helps minimise the visibility of the carrying sheet around it. Being water slide, it's nice and easy to keep on fiddling with the position until they look about right. Decals are one of the parts of the build that really help polish the look of the model. Take the Corris coach for example. Without the lining, it looks so bare. You wouldn't see Lady Di riding in a plain Corris coach, would you? Maybe Camilla. Anyway, the decals are on, so the vans get a quick blast of satin varnish to seal them in. Whilst the bodies are drying off, I went over the buffer beams and painted them up. It helps to give them a coat of red oxide primer if they're going to be red, as it reduces how much top coat you're going to be putting on. I've now got red oxide and the top coat of 220 in rattle cans. So this job is really quick now compared to both airbrush or hand painting them. The rattle can of Humbrol 220 dries much faster when I airbrush the same colour, which I like because I can get to bed quicker. With the red dry, I paint the buffer heads. This is black primer, but I like to go over them with a matte black after, because this black is quite glossy. And then the pieces all get black wash treatment. Initially, I was going to keep the wash quite heavy on these, but as I worked on them, I changed my mind and kept it really light. I guess I didn't want to hide the lovely decals, which is true because they're lovely. The next morning, they were dry, obviously. So the glazing can go in. I've cut this from clear plastic sheet, probably the stuff that Will's kits comes in. I've kept the pieces of glazing quite close to the actual size of the window, because I didn't want them getting in the way of the seating when I put the vans back together in a second. Well, that's the build's about done, so I can put them back together, like I said I would a second ago. The bogey's attached to the floor by a little bolt. It does come with a nut, but I found that the bolt actually screws into the floor itself and doesn't need the nut. So if you're old enough to remember this Little Britain reference, this van contains no nuts. That's 2 BBC references in this one video. Yes, I am trying for a sponsor. And then the body can slide on. This is a seriously tight fit, and you may even need to scrape some paint back for the seating for it to go on. The roof stays on using the pressure from those little tags, but I ended up gluing them on so I don't lose it, which I would. And there we go. I actually really like the look of these two. I genuinely think it's probably because of those cute little decals on the sides. And as you can see, you can't see the interior, which I keep saying. But I might well add a figure or two into them at some point. You'll still see a silhouette at least. I think this just about finished any kits kindly sent over by Dundas Models. So at this point I will say a really big thank you to them for their generosity. They've contributed to this channel so much. And aside from these two, we've had the TR Guards van, the Glyn Valley coaches, loads of wagons, and more. You can thank them too, as without them I'd probably have struggled getting as far with the TR stock as I have. So at least go and check their website out, the link's in the description below. They keep kits from so many different suppliers, as well as ready to run stuff from Bachmann and the like. I'm actually slowly running out of kits to build for this one now. I've still got a couple of coaches here and there, but aside from that, I really need to look into the engineering work stock. Or moss. Yes, I need to do that moss. That damn moss. Cheers.